And we're back with some more base Lovin. Today, the theme is going to be progression, and we're going to start off with a base here that's at 450 cycles, and every base we go after this is going to be more cycles further into the game. And we're going to see how some people go at different speeds. This game can be played any way you want, and it's just interesting to see how some people approach things very, very aggressively, and some people take a more calm and structured approach. So the first stuff we're going to start here is a map sent in by Tartarus. This colony is only 450 cycles old, and it's already got a very large space program. There is, what is it? We have got 6 rockets up here. 6 rockets. It's at the 450 mark, which is okay. Someone ate a lot of Weetabix. They were just going on overdrive here. To get to this point by cycle 450 is amazing. And you notice there's lots of dig commands going on everywhere. The whole place is just active to the nines. But the main thing to take notice of is, where is it? Yes. This sour gas boiler. Yes, there's this sour gas boiler by cycle 450. That's very unusual because most people don't have thermium by cycle 450. But let's have a quick look here and see how this works, because this one's rather interesting. When it comes down to sour gas boiling, it comes down to there's 2 major variants. Your ones that run hot and ones that run cold. And by that I mean you basically have an aqua tuner that heats up the liquid to above about 600 degrees, and that turns it into a gas. And then you cool the gas down to minus 170 or something like that, and then that freezes it. So you need to heat stuff up and cool stuff down, and for that you use the aqua tuner. But what normally happens is you end up, how can I explain this? Producing too much cold. So because you produce too much cold, you end up freezing this down here because you have too much chill going on. And normally what people do is they stick a teppidizer in down here to heat up the liquids again. And that's sort of that's an example of a sour gas boiler that's running cold. It's generating more cold than heat, so you need to dump some extra heat into the system to stabilize it. Then there's ones that run hot, as in they produce more heat than they produce cold, so because it's activating so much, it's generating too much chill, and then you normally slap a steam turbine on top and you start bleeding off the heat, though that's usually, they're less rare. Or they're less common. They're more rare, less common ones because you got to bleed out steam that's, over 600 degrees. You need to do temperature control, a whole bunch of stuff. It's much harder to do than just slapping a teppidizer in at the bottom. So that's why most of the designs usually run cold. This one not only runs hot, it runs hot and doesn't even bother with a steam turbine. To bleed off the extra heat, there's a petroleum boiler attached. Right? So when this gets too hot, an automation signal is sent out from this. That automation signal, along with another few bits and bobs, activates this little petroleum boiler. It runs at about 4.5 kilos. That was the sweet point, it seems, to keep it on reasonably frequently. And then that dumps in the crude oil that comes over here and gets dumped down to get boiled into petroleum. That's an awful lot of fine-tuning. I cannot really explain that quickly and efficiently, but let's just say, if you've ever made a sour gas boiler, it's, how does it was described? Yes, it's like balancing things on an uncomfortably sharp spoon. You've got to balance things just right. So trying to set one of these up where you're bleeding off the excess heat with a petroleum boiler, that just takes an enormous amount of patience, time, and practice. I just wouldn't have the time. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to. And this has resulted in this base having just a gargantuan amount of power. Bear in mind, cycle 450, remember. It's cycle 450, and this base is pretty much power set forever. Now, you will notice here, where is it? These are 1 kilo pipes so that nothing will break when passing through. There may have been a minor accident in the past. Back up, I hear. But anyway, that is a very impressive thing to have done by cycle 450. This base is an absolute monstrosity. You'll notice over here, this is the industrial brick. It's not a giant industrial brick, but what it does have going for it is a giant cooling loop. Yeah, this piping gets a little bit crazy around here. This is the actual cooling loop that goes down here. But the first thing it does is it comes way down here. This entire line of petroleum, that's actually cooling down the entire core base. Goes all the way through here, all the way up through here before eventually going back up and through the industrial area, as in all of the power generation, everything. All of this is cooled by the same petroleum cooling loop. It's kind of enormous. That would have taken quite a bit of effort to put together. But you've got your hatch ranches over here, core base, room setup. There we go, and as you can see, nice, symmetrical. No messing about. For cycle 450, it's rather impressive how much they've managed to achieve. Up here is the space setting. I think they went straight for space first. I'm going to see C- set up some solar, though I don't think they need the solar anymore. 6 sets of rocket silos, but the whole right-hand side is not really exploited yet because, well, I suppose it's only been 450 cycles. Now, if we go down to the oil biome, they advised they got here very late and it was very damaged. You'll see here there's a massive gap and a whole bunch of the magma has already solidified. This stuff has been cooled. A lot of heat must have been dumped into the oil biome. You can see the leftovers of the the atmosuit docks that used to go in there before it was completely demolished. I'm assuming someone dropped an ocean of water down here to help cool the whole place down because it's still pretty toasty, but yep, that looks incredibly painful. Now that is what you can do in 450 cycles. And we're not going to go into too much depth in these bases as we go through them, because they're just, it's generally the same stuff. There's the oxygen production in there, and we've got a Rodriguez up here providing oxygen to the rest of the place. Look at the size of that pool of oxygen. Like, how often have you seen a pool of oxygen that big on a base this young? A quick look at the decor overlay and you'll notice it's actually pretty tasty in all of the living areas. That's all the living areas there, and that big red area is the industrial brick, and that seems to be a transport column. Then if we check the gas overlays, damn, that's a lot of piping. For a 450 cycle base, that's sort of an enormous amount of piping. Most of the map has also been destroyed. Plumbing is, this is way too neat. This is just stupidly neat, and oh, look at that. What is going on there? There's a giant cooling loop, is there? One moment, let me see what's happening here. Yep, that's a giant cooling loop. It's a giant cooling loop that's actually going all the way down to the bottom of the map. It drags heat out of here and drags it all the way up to the top. You know what, let's have a quick look at the heat overlay, shall we? That is a mighty interesting looking heat map. I'm going to assume this entire area was, yeah, that's Rime, is it to start? Yeah, it's Rime. Medium boulders, irregular, oil, geoactive. That would explain it. Now, if we check the mineral overlay, I feel kind of mean on this one. They've definitely got plenty of fossil, but they really didn't exploit the oil biome. They went straight for space. Also, they've got a sour gas boiler. It's not, well, you're still going to need that fossil for steel. Anyway, power overlay. That's actually, I just don't get how it's this neat. At 450 cycles, a base should not be this neat. I'm going to feel bad. Like, some of the later bases in this are not going to be able to compete with this sort of insanity. Respect Tartarus. This is an amazingly good base for 450 cycles. Anyway, let's skip on to our next contestant. Contestant is not quite accurate, but next up we have Headning with cycle 653. So we're about 200 cycles further into the game, and you notice it's a completely different experience. Everyone plays the game differently, and this is more about preserving the natural environment. The theme is to build everything while digging as little as possible, was how this was described. But despite all of that, it has a fully developed space program, and as well as that, you guessed it, it's also got a sour gas boiler. So I feel like sour gas boilers maybe got a little bit more popular recently. I don't know, maybe I missed a memo. Anyway, this sour gas boiler actually runs cold, as in it generates too much chill. That's why we've got this tepidizer down here. Very straightforward. This heats up the liquids over here, and the supercoolant it outputs cools down the sour gas on the other side. That turns into methane. And then when this cooling loop gets too cold, as in it's getting so cold it's going to start solidifying this stuff over here and turning it into solid blocks of ice, the tepidizer turns on for a bit, dumps a little bit of heat into this section, and what causes the supercoolant to warm up a little bit, just to keep everything nice and stable. Yeah, but dear Lord, look at the way this is sort of crammed in. Everything in this base is crammed into a natural space. Like, how? How do you get that in there? You would have to, like, crawl up the ladder, build all of these over here, and then you're sort of bricking it in as you go. I couldn't do that. When I build stuff, I sort of have to just build a box around it of ladders, and then once I have a box of ladders around it, then I sort of fill in the middle. Trying to build this from the inside out and then seal it behind you, I couldn't do it. I don't know how this was done. That's just insane. But it preserved an awful lot of the surrounding environment. You'll notice the temperature, there's actually a couple of ice biomes, or what are these? I don't know exactly what they're, alcohol biomes? Yeah, I don't know, I can't remember what the names of these things are. Just preserved perfectly on either side. And this is the oil biome, and it has been turned into a bunch of natural gas generators, which are all quite toasty in here at 124 degrees. That means all the polluted water that comes out of them just instantly turns into steam. Well, okay, except for maybe over here. And then you've got your slicksters on this side. But let's just have a quick scan up through this base. It's just it's got your atmosuit docks here that lets everyone in and out. All the oil actually comes from over here. There's not that much required. This thing is more of a burst boiler or a batch boiler. It turns on and off in sections depending on how much is required. You'll see here there's about 15 kilos of gas pressure up there. So it keeps the gas pressure up there fairly stable, and it's just on and off as necessary, which sort of fits with the theme of sustainability built into this. Oh yes, where were we? Yeah, this is mental. Okay. Here we have a bunch of ethanol distilleries, and here we have a bunch of poke shells, and here we have an absolutely ridiculous amount of poke shells. Alright, let's bring up the remove overlay for a second. There is 46 critters / eggs in that section, and they are all poke shells, and all of them are going to drop their poke shell molts, which can be turned into lime. Now, how you get in there to extract the poke shell molts, I have no idea. I assume they draw lots, and the loser has to go in there, because I would not like to enter there. That always has eggs, and there's always an awful lot of angry poke shells. But how did they end up with this many? fairly straightforward. These ethanol distilleries produce polluted dirt, the poke shells live on the polluted dirt, and then this fella over here just keeps the population to about 5 poke shells in here at all times. If it goes above that amount, they get wrangled out. And all the eggs that show up in here, they get scooped up by these conveyor loaders. And these conveyor loaders dump the eggs down into the area below. This just means plenty of ethanol and plenty of poke shells for molds, which gives you plenty of steel. Just a bit below that and to the right, we've got this setup, rusty oxidizers. Actually using rusty oxidizer for oxygen, it's... Oh, normally you switch to water and you use electrolyzers, but, you know, why waste the rust? I mean, if you've got it, why not use it? And there's plenty of ethanol biomes in this section. So the entire bottom half of the map actually gets all of its oxygen from rust production. This is an atmosuit dock hooked up to rust oxygen production. Kind of impressive. And now, where were we? Ah, yes. The core base. Oh, wait, before we get into the core base. This is actually a cooling loop in here. This little thing here. They're squeezed in. Everything is just squeezed in a little area, so it's easy to forget things or miss things. This little cooling loop here cools down this area because, well, you've got a petroleum generator going off here on just the left-hand side. That's kind of crazy. There's a petroleum generator there. It's just the reason being they produce an awful lot of carbon dioxide. So because of all of that excess carbon dioxide production, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of little carbon skimmers down here. Otherwise, this whole place would be chock full. Just I've never really thought of just chucking a petroleum generator somewhere. I normally, you know, build a large power brick just somewhere. This seems to be just distributed power everywhere because we've got power production down here and we've also got power production over here for no other reason than it's convenient. And if we go up here, where is it? Ah, yes. This is the core base. You notice it's all spread out and it just, I don't know, hurts my brain. I have everything like built into squares, I suppose. So for me, it's hard to wrap my brain around this. But it really does look like it was just built organically, which is one of those really hard to achieve things. Trying to wrap your brain around the map instead of just making the map conform to what you want is one of those skills I've never really developed. Anyway, yeah, oh, you gotta love that animation. Yeah, you've definitely had enough, buddy. We're gonna have to cut you off. Bedrooms are actually, they doubled up in cots. Not sure thematically what's going on here, but yeah, everyone gets a bedroom they share, except for this bunk bed over here for some reason. The one interesting bit here is, you ever have that bit where they drop food on the ground? Kind of happens when you load in the game and they're eating, they'll end up dropping their food if you load in the game. A few other reasons can cause it, but these auto sweepers here pick up any food that gets dropped on the ground and dump them into the conveyor loaders on the opposite side of that door. This is one of those things it's one of those things you pick up as you play the game. You can pass stuff through pneumatic doors with auto sweepers. So any of that food is there, gets dumped into the conveyor loader, and because the conveyor loader is outside the room, it doesn't break the rune bonus, so it still counts as a great haul. One of those little tricks that's handy to know. The industrial brick is as you would imagine, a multi-purpose design. There is a copper volcano in here. Also, it provides cooling for the metal refinery. And as well as that, there appears to be a cooling loop built in here that cools down this block of water. So literally this entire area here is their industrial production, a copper volcano, and the cooling loop that provides cooling for this, which will in turn provide cooling for the rest of most of the core base. Kind of a nice little setup. Also, all the petroleum that comes through here is limited, so it can't pass through unless the temperature in there is below 170, just to make sure that this thing never goes off. There's also some automation built in there to make sure things don't turn on and off unless they're actually needed. But I'm not going to worry about that. We're going to go straight into the cooling loop. Yep, the aqua tuner here cools down this blob of water, and then the cooling loop that's made entirely of crude oil just sort of passes through there, goes all the way around the base. Nothing too excessive. It's not nearly as level by level as our last base. But you could imagine, this is all built organically. Like, look at the amount of organic tiles that are left behind. And one of the nicer touches, yep, that's a nature reserve. And it's right in front of the toilets. Also, you'll notice they had to do this here just to get enough tiles. So there's this sort of weird section where you've got to go to two sections here. So, like, look, there's a bathroom down here, but if you want to get to it, you have to pass through a nature reserve. True, it's only exactly one tile, but that person there, they have the nature reserve bonus of +6, simply because they walked through that one tile there. Everyone's got to use the bathroom at some point. Very nice little system. I really like that. Yeah, where were we? Ah, yes. Further up here, you've got some Draco farms for food. They're not the most cost-efficient forms of food, but they are perfectly sustainable, which kind of suits the whole theme. Oh, these are plastic Dracos. Anyway, you go up to the top here. You'll notice there's very little excavation done. All that's been excavated is entirely what was necessary, though there is a sort of a service corridor up here. I'm pretty sure that's going to be something to do with power along the way, but we'll check that out near the end. Also, most of the ice biomes have been broken into just so that they get access to the sleet wheat. There's plenty of sweet wheat going around the place, and whatever geysers were located on the map. You kind of need to dig through locations to scout the geysers, but barring that, you'll notice very little destruction. There's a sort of a scout tunnel down there then that side also. And most of the ice biome has been excavated for wild state wheat. And then in the space biome, it's pretty industrialized. I suppose once you get into space, the gloves are off. You don't have to care about the natural environment. It's all vacuum anyway. Massive food source of shovels, massive statue. I think I broke something because I don't have maybe a mod or something in place. But yeah, thermium, copper ore, I don't know what's going on there. However, there is some wonderful flower pots here full of spore kids. This is probably the safest place on the entire map to run them. Where is it? Decor overlay. Yeah, it makes everything up here much nicer. It also means the place is full of natural sunlight. Oh, yeah. Couple of electrolyte or Rodriguez's. They provide oxygen for the entire bottom of the core, or the entire core base down here. Though you see it becomes, they branch off slowly more and more as they go down. So it's sort of fairly long runs. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Giant tank of oxygen, giant tank of hydrogen, cooling loop for all of this stuff, some solar built in, and for the miners, it went with the most brute force solution I've ever seen. These are thermium miners, so they can't overheat. Well, they can overheat, but if regolith falls them, it'll actually cool them down. And then you just have one drill at the end here, which is soaked in visco gel. I don't know how that's not flooded. I usually thought they would get flooded, but it seems that's not the case. That means this is cooled by whatever atmosphere is in here, so it should never overheat. It can clear this drill. So even if all of these drills get entombed at the same time, this can clear this drill, and then they daisy chain along, clearing each other as they go. Which means this can clear itself all the way to the end. Just so simple, so easy, no worry, no stress, no fancy C miners, no V miners, just done and dusted. And that is a 650 cycle base that tried to preserve the natural environment and did quite a good job, I must admit. Let's have a quick look at the overlays and see what we're dealing with. Temperature map is not really going to tell us much. Most of the map is still intact, which, yeah, I have no idea how. I couldn't do it. Decor-wise, we're looking at, you can see the main core living areas where everything is nice and beautiful. Now, where is it? Gas overlays. The gas overlays are actually really well done because it's just 6 lines of oxygen coming from the top of the map and they're just split off as they go down, so it actually becomes a more narrow shaft as it goes down. Then liquids, you'll see there's only a couple of cooling loops, but by and large it's actually very minuscule. I'm pretty sure these liquids here are all coming from liquid vents and geysers around the map, so all the piping is just to get the renewable sources from one side to the other. Well, except for that sour gas boiler down there, of course. Now, we sort of should look at the minerals overlay, but yeah, there's going to be plenty of fossil around the place. You can't help it, not when you're playing a style like this, so, that's fine. Power overlay. There's the power span on the left-hand side. Yeah, now that looks more organic. The last one was just like much more square and much more organized. This is like, yeah, we had to work around what we were going with. For example, most of the power that goes down there to power the sour gas boiler, and I'm pretty sure that the natural gas down there is the entire bulk for this. Big thanks to Headning for sending in this map. And now for something very different. Cycle 823, verdant, metal-rich, geodes, miscalculated pod location, and geoactive. Now you'll notice here, it looks very odd. It's not the square base you're normally used to, and it's not the organic base you'd normally be used to. This is more a slow and methodical demolition of all the environment, but doing it one biome at a time, leaving most of the abyssalite in place. You can almost see where like bite-sized chunks were taken out of the environment. And if you'll check in here, let's just say take an area like this, you'll notice there's auto sweeper set up here to load everything onto these conveyor belts, and these conveyors all lead back to, well, yeah, this place isn't pipe spaghetti, this is more conveyor spaghetti. This was all about taking everything that's been collected and dumping it all into one spot. I am not going to go through the automation or the organization of all of this. It would, no, I value my sanity. I am not getting involved in that. Needless to say, everything is categorized, catalogued, organized, and loaded into its correct and proper locations, as far as I'm aware. So this is just a completely different take on how to do the map. Instead of going specifically, like, I mean, the oil biome hasn't even been touched yet. This is all about just move through an area, strip mine it out, sort it, catalog it, and move on. You'll see the giant bathrooms here, but where is it? Yeah, no, what I'm trying to get across is, this is actually a sealed-in area here. This area from here, that's the living area. So that's where the duplicants sleep, bathrooms, dining area. There's only 8 duplicants on this map. So you can imagine this is a very small elite force of dupes. Kitchen over here, dining room there, bedrooms, bathroom, done. And then they go out the front door and they're straight into Atmo suits for the rest of the day. Now, there are a few bits and bobs around the place. This is the cooling loop for the area, but everything is very minimalist. So this cools down this area, but just really the core base, because once they're outside of that, they're in Atmo suits, so who cares? They're a lovely statue the moment they go out the door, because of course there is. Up here, where is it? Yes. There is Draco Draco Ranches. This is plastic Dracos. Over here we have reed fiber Dracos. And food-wise, they're looking at about 6 million calories of barbecue. That might have something to do with also all of these ranches down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 ranches. I think they're trying to consume everything on the map. It's one of those challenges where you have to basically destroy or consume all the resources on the map and turn it into something else until eventually it's all gone. It's a tricky one, alright. Oh, I think there was a... Ah yes, they advised me there was a failed attempt at taming a cool steam vent. Yeah, the plan I think here was to dump it all into containers. You'll notice these gas reservoirs are full of steam. There's 600 kilos of steam in there. That's a lot of steam. That's an awful lot of steam. I would never open those up ever again. Plus, they're going to break the pipes once you try and hook something up to them. So yeah, that's just a very simplistic take on a base. Oh, up here is also where the gravitas building is. And all the hydrogen on the map has just naturally floated up there. Naturally occurring hydrogen gone, but you don't care. Everyone's in atmo suits. I really like that for just the simplicity of it. It's like, yeah, we're going to take it a bite at a time and catalogue a lot of it. A much slower, methodical approach than most bases, but I kind of enjoy it. Now, let's have a quick look at the overviews. Temperatures mean almost nothing. Can't really tell. Well, I suppose just it's the way it's been done. Gas flow is actually tiny. All you really need to do is oxygenate your living area, so the rest of it is just some hydrogen, a few bits and bobs. That's the cooling loops there. And there's a little bit of water going around the place, but by and large, this base is very minimalist in a lot of what it's done. Automation means nothing, and decor-wise, the core really only needs to be localized to the starting areas, so that tiny little room we started off in. Power? Yeah, there's an actual main power spine going through this entire place. You notice it, but it's all heavy watt wire. Where is... one second. Ah yes, there it is. You notice that this whole place is running on coal, because it doesn't really need anything but coal. There's a hydrogen generator down here, but that's just from the oxygen production. You bear in mind, there's only 8 duplicants, so literally one electrolyzer is keeping everyone oxygenated in this base. Kind of insane. Anyway, big thanks to R4D6 for this map. All the save games in this are going to be attached to the description if you want to download them and have a little bit of a look around yourself. Now we have Kris. Kris's base is 830 cycles, about 5 or 6 cycles older than the last one. This one's played on Rime, Geoactive, Metal-Rich, Geodes, Frozen Core. And this is a very different looking base as well from pretty much most of the last ones also. Now you'll notice down here, actually let's have a quick look down here. Since it's a Frozen Core, a bunch of this has been dug into, and of course this revealed, what was it, a water geyser. The plus 95 seawater has just been let flow out here to just melt this whole area. I'm pretty sure this whole place was full of ice until that thing became active. But, well, oil biome, standard issue, except for all the bricking in that's been going on. Slowly but surely all that petroleum's getting used up. But where is it getting used up? It's getting used up in this little system. Now this is an interesting little thing, because you'll notice there's no steam turbine strapped on here. I'm not 100% sure how this thing is staying cool, because this thing should be a lot hotter than it is. Alright, let's go with how it does work up. Here is your metal refineries. Your metal refineries get crude oil dumped into them. It comes in from the bottom of the map. That crude oil gets sucked up by here and then spit out as crude oil, hot crude oil that's just been heated up by refining metal. That gets dumped into these oil refineries. The oil refineries turn it into petroleum. The petroleum gets spit out down here. And then, where is it? Yeah, it comes down here and gets stored up in these storage tanks. There is a bunch of very, 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 very hot petroleum down here. Now that very hot petroleum then scoots along here, comes back up, and it seemed to get dumped into these petroleum generators, but at some point that has been shut down. I don't see a link between them anymore. I might have not have the correct mod installed, but something like extra long bridges. So I think there's this bridge is supposed to be 1 tile longer. I can't really fix it up without the mod. Sometimes I don't get mods listed with the games and I just have to load them up, and yeah. Oh well. I think what's happening here is, though, the heat is eaten by the petroleum generators, because when they burn it off, they basically destroy the heat. Though it should be a lot toastier in there. How is this thing not overheated yet? I have no idea. Not a clue. Not a clue. Don't get it. It is the mystery of the dance. Then over here we have an awful lot of Paku. So all the algae in the map has been pretty much dumped in here. If we do a quick check, you will see there's 140 critters in that tank, or at least in the surrounding environment. I'm pretty sure most of those are the Paku. I have no idea what that would do to your frames depending on your PC. Standard issue Rodriguez, 3 piles of oxygen, and it's going out at high speed. This is a 21 dupe base, so there's plenty of oxygen required. Now let's have a look at this glorious center. This is the center of the base. Look at that great hall. That is just an excessive amount of decor. Like, oh my god. For example, if you're sitting at this table, you can't even appreciate the statue at the very end of the room. Like, you can only see the statues up to as far as here. And as you get further away, it gets worse. This is just, Yeah, this is decor overkill. This is to make the dupes feel super happy. I'm not complaining. That's awesome. Then we got, you got your ranches up here for producing more coal. People to produce food over there. Just a very large bulk built base. In fact, the whole thing is one giant square. Well, okay, it pokes out a little bit to the right at the top here, and then it's sealed in on this side so that everyone has to go in and out through atmosphere docks. It's actually kind of huge. That is, even the electrolyzer setup is all stored inside the main core base. And for some reason I presume there was some natural gas back here that got accessed. Maybe it's a geode full of natural gas. But yeah, nice little centralized base. Everyone leaves to atmosphere docks, and then the base pretty much becomes the normal destruction of the environment after that. For example, here's a whole bunch of more petroleum generators. I'm not even sure where that petroleum came from or how it got up here. No, I've checked. I can't figure it out. I think it's coming from the metal refinement down the bottom. There was an overflow on this that brings it up here just so it could feed into these petroleum generators. Now, I'm not sure where the CO2 is going. I think it's pretty sure it's pumped out by that. But it's going to have a hard time keeping up with 4 petroleum generators. And up at the top, we've got your oxygen production facility, liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and... oh, now, what do you call these things? There have been several names suggested for this one. Basically, you've cut off the bottom of it so that all of the oxygen just floods out into space. You don't care about the oxygen. What you're trying to do is harvest as much hydrogen as possible for your hydrogen rocketry program. So this has been referred to as the bottomless Rodriguez, the pantsless Rodriguez, the streaking Rodriguez. There's a lot of very uncomfortable names for this particular version of the Rodriguez. That poor guy. Let's see. No prizes for guessing what part of the base the living area is in. Oh my god. Look at the decor in there. That is insane. Gas, I'm guessing, that is actually incredibly neat. Damn. That is like, there's the central... I'm going to guess that's the central corridor for pretty much power, gas, liquids, everything. Let's see how the liquids are looking. Yep. Ooh, that's actually quite a lot of liquids everywhere. I suppose there is an awful lot of liquids on this map type. Alright, next up we'll go with temperature overlay. Whoo-wee. That is actually... yeah, there is the industrial area we were talking about earlier. That is well toasty. And that... oh my god, that Rodriguez is running red hot. 83 degrees, 88 degrees. Oh, I hope you made that a gold amalgam. Yes, you did. Smart man. And here's the mineral overlay, and oh man, they were so close. Like, a little bit of fossil, a little bit of fossil. They were one of the only maps that had kind of taken all the fossil out. So close. But power overlay, let's have a quick look. Yeah, central core spine that goes up through the middle. Kind of expecting that. Yeah, now, I know I've gone through these maps a little bit fast, but it's more to do with the amount of maps that are coming in these days. I think I got, since the last video, I got about 7 more maps in, so I need to be a little bit more aggressive about going through the maps. So I can't get into the nitty-gritty details of every map, and I just want to sort of point out some of the special and unique details and the ways people play it. Every single map is almost like a fingerprint of a person. Actually, let me show you one other one. Just a quick look. This little time capsule here is about 1 year and 10 months old. I downloaded it off one of my old videos. I think this is just before space. This is cycle 859. So this is the oldest base so far that you have seen on this video. And it's 1 year and 9 months old as well, so it's probably one of the older ones ever made. And you'll notice up here, there's no space program. This thing doesn't have a space program yet. In fact, it's, yeah, everything is very different. Though that is the first time I think I ever used C-Miner designs. Yeah. So there is some stuff yet that hasn't even been invented at this point in the game. For example, here is probably my very first attempt at a petroleum boiler. And you'll notice it's not automated. Rock just goes in here. You have to come in later and clean it out and fill it back up again. There's no way to automated doing yet. No one's actually figured out a way to do that stuff. In fact, only with this patch, the temperature sensors go above 300 degrees. I suppose what I'm trying to get across is, some people, when they're newer at the game, they look at all the things that people are building and they get a little bit scared. It's like, wow, how am I supposed to do that? Well, lots and lots of practice. We all start off pretty weak sauce, and we all do it in our own way. The only reason I've gotten any good at this game is because, well, I've stolen a whole bunch of ideas off an awful lot of other people. What's that expression? If I've stood... yeah, the only reason I've seen so far is I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Well, yeah, it kind of works in this context. We all keep building on everyone else's work. For example, this here is a thermal injector. It allows heat to be transferred from one side to the other, and when it's open, no heat can transfer. Right? So, very simple idea, but I didn't come up with that. Someone else came up with that ages ago. No one even remembers it so far back in the mists of time. So, yeah, without that, a whole bunch of designs would not work, and we can't even remember who came up with it. And everything on top of that has just been built further on. Like, for example, you'll see here, none of these ranches are all poked over to the one side. We haven't figured out that, hey, you know what, maybe we should put a block there in the middle to stop the critters from wandering too far. There's all sorts of little ideas that haven't even been discovered yet and won't become common practice for a long, long time. In fact, steam turbines over here, you look at them, steam turbines used to shoot steam out the top, which meant you had to pump it all the way back down and around again. So there's actually a steam loop here trying to pump steam back into the bottom layer. Of course, you couldn't go above 20 kilos of pressure. There was a whole sorts of other problems we needed to deal with. Industrial bricks were much more complicated. Oh, wow. We had not simplified things at all. So let's do a quick base tour of this very old base. And remember, we're here for base loving. We don't care. So, wow, that's an enormous pool of... Yeah, that's a giant pool of petroleum, all right. And just in case you need some power, surrounded by a giant pool of water, I think you can actually see the mental processes of this person here. They were like, yes, let's just in case we potentially run out of power, let's keep an enormous stockpile of petroleum. Enormous stock pools of water, polluted water. Oh, central core of the transport grid that goes through there. An embarrassing amount of liquids that have fallen down because they've left stuff until really late in the game. Look at all this natural environment that's been left around the place. What is wrong with this person? It's already cycle 800 and something. Now, did they get all the minerals? Did they? Let's see. Oh my god, look at all that fossil lying around the place. What a monster. I mean, no, we love all bases equally, it's fine. But yeah, there's an awful lot of fossil going on down there. Actually, let's do a quick overview of... oh no, one second. Yet we got power bricks up here. We've got your solar. Everything's fine. Still no space program though at this late stage of the game. Kind of embarrassing, not gonna lie. Let's go with the gas overlays. Oh god, that's hideous. Jesus, what were you thinking, Francis? What were you thinking? Wow, actually, that's probably neater than most of my stuff I do now. I'm guessing there was a giant remodel done. Let's see where that goes. Oh god. Well, there is only 12 dupes in this base, despite it being 859 cycles in. The cooling loop seems to go all the way down through here, and it comes in on that section. I'm not even going to try and trace that back. That's too much of a mess. Oh my god. Okay. Let's do a quick look at the temperature overlay. Yeah, well, okay, the core base is cool. We'll give you a pass on that one. That one's fine. Let's check the power overlay. Ugh, Jesus. Okay. Yep, that's just nope. Just big balls of nope right there. And, oh yeah, what was the last one? Decor. Yeah, if I recall, I was big into my decor back in the day. So there is, yeah, the power spine is just covered in decor everywhere. Now, this game will not run if I let it keep going. The reason being the skills tree was all changed, so no one has any skills assigned. Yeah, they're suddenly going to be unable to use Atmos suits or use them correctly. I suppose the view I'm trying to get across is, if you're newer at the game, or hell, if you're even a long-term player of the game, it's good to remember and just know that no one really got that good that fast. There is a whole bunch of builds that, if you could go back in time and show them off, would be revolutionary just a year and 9 months ago. I mean... the industrial brick hasn't even existed yet. No one really thought, hey, what if I just get a metal refinery and dump the hot stuff in under a steam turbine? Well, actually, no. There was a few ideas of how to do that, but nothing small, compact, efficient. Nothing had really gotten that far. Everything was bigger, bulkier, more complicated. We hadn't simplified things down. Everyone has been building on top of everyone else's ideas since the beginning, and the game has been patched so much and so much has changed. So never get too worried about how you're progressing. You don't need to be, like, if you're at cycle 1000 and you haven't hit space, don't worry about it. If you're at cycle 2000, still don't worry about it. In fact, if you don't even bother doing space or launching a rocket, it's not a big deal, so long as you're having fun and just enjoying refining everything down. Oh, space cadet training, I remember those. Dear Lord. Okay, oh man, and the old designs. You know what, I should do a retroactive review of a bunch of old bases. I really should. If anyone's got some old bases, maybe send me in a few of the oldest of the ones before patches were done. Oh, I could probably pull a few out of my saves. Never mind. Anyway, I'm going to cut out here before I waffle even more. Big thanks to everyone who sent in their bases today. Links in the description to all of those if you want to download them. In fact, I'll stick this map in as well, though it probably won't run very well. And I've got a few insane bases coming up. I've been categorizing the bases, and I have a few that are just... yeah, they're ultra late game bases made by people who are probably serial killers. No offense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed and good luck.